everyone, my name is Marianne Guevara, and a huge hello and a huge thank you to anyone who is just clicking on the video or checking out the channel. Whether you're a new or non-subscriber, your viewership is always greatly appreciated. So today, as you can tell from the title, I'll be doing another spoilery discussion video. The last one I did was for Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, and today we will be revisiting Susanna Clarke because I'll be discussing the world of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, because I'll be discussing the titular novel, but also the short story collections that take place within the same universe. And needless to say, these have become my first 2 5-star books of the year. This has become one of my favorite fantasy standalones of all time, or just fantasies in general. And it's been a long while since I've come across a short story collection that I consider to be just 5 stars. Clarke has definitely become a favorite author of mine. I will be going over 3 major points, or going over 3 major elements of this story, of this world, that I really love, and what makes it so appealing to me in particular. So yeah, this is going to be a long video, so let's just start. One of the major things that I really love about Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is the commitment to the time period. This book is a fantasy novel, however, it's also historical fiction and then also alternate history. This takes place within the Regency period from 1807 to 1817, and it also features a real-life event, which is the Napoleonic Wars. And it features real-life figures. So, for instance, we see the Duke of Wellington, King George III, Napoleon Bonaparte, even Lord Byron makes an appearance in this book. So you have all these elements, these real-life elements that just help ground this book further into reality. And I feel that if an author does this, especially if you're dealing with historical fiction, or even in a book here where you're kind of blending it with fantasy, an author should put more effort into making sure that the time period feels authentic. And Clarke definitely does that. I think she's done a marvelous job capturing the spirit or the feel of the Regency period without having to go in depth on all the minutiae or detail. I think she captured it more in everyone's mannerisms and then their dialogue. It all just felt natural. And another thing that felt really natural was this blend of historical fiction and fantasy. Clarke has crafted a very rich and ultimately believable history of English magic and has woven it seamlessly together with real English history. It's surprising how convincing this book is, and it really is a testament to Clarke's ability, that she was slowly kind of convincing me that this could be real. A lot of this history is conveyed to you through footnotes, and I don't think there's been any other book where I've been so just taken in by the footnotes. The footnotes relate bits of historical past, but then also legends as well, different accounts. There's a lot of references to like magic books and certain, magician authors. And all of this detail just helps you as the reader become more immersed in this world. Not only in the fantasy aspect, but I think also the historical aspect as well. Another thing that I really appreciate with regards to commitment to the time period is the portrayal of characters, particularly female characters. Now, obviously in the past, female stories have been, pushed aside, overlooked, and you have authors now who want to bring women's stories more to the forefront, which is great. However, I do get a bit wary when it comes to historical fiction, where an author could potentially overcompensate. And what I mean by that is they portray a female character that just feels too modern and doesn't even resemble the type of women that are living in the time period the story is meant to take place in. And this is where I discuss more about the Ladies of Grace Adieu, particularly this first story within this collection, because I think Clarke does a fabulous job of portraying women who defy convention, but do it in an authentic and believable way. In this story, we're following a woman, her stepmother, and then their friend, who have all learned magic. However, the crux of this tale is more about their bond, this female sisterly bond that each of them derives strength from, but then this bond that strengthens their magic as well. I love the image at the end of this story because I feel it's deceptively empowering. And if you take into context the whole story, I think you can see why. So the image I'm talking about is just the three of them taking a walk in the field. Now, I think this scene portrays two things. One, their strong connection to nature. And in the world of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, magic is intrinsically tied to the natural world. This idea that the sun, the trees, the river are sentient beings, and that strong magic can come from forming oaths or bonds with these elements. But then it also portrays their unity. At the beginning of the story, the stepdaughter is contemplating marriage to this man she doesn't love or respect, just to stay within that village so that she doesn't have to be away from her stepmom or her friend. But by the end, the guy ends up moving away and she finds herself free. The story doesn't end with them revealing to the village that they practice magic and everyone accepts it and thinks they're amazing. That would just be inauthentic to the time period. But it does end with them basically being untethered and free to be together and practice magic, on their own terms. And that in itself, I feel, is pretty empowering. The next major element that I really love about Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is the portrayal of magic. Magic here is something ancient, it's something immense, it's something fluid. So for those who are more accustomed to, hard magic systems where there are clear rules and then the magic operates upon this rule, I don't know how you're going to feel about the magic here in this book. Even though Strange and Norrell do study spells, they construct spells, it's made abundantly clear in the book that what they're doing is basically child's play. Magic here is something tied with nature. It engages and exhausts the senses, the physical senses. And I also felt that, reading some passages where you see the magic at work, I was getting a feeling, of cosmic horror a bit. So one example I have here is from a passage where Strange is taking a spell that is made to make him mad, because the idea is that a proximity to madness will lead to a proximity in magic. So I'll just start in the middle. It was shot through with new fears, new desires, and new hatreds. He was surrounded by great presences. Some had wicked mouths full of teeth and huge burning eyes. There was a thing like a horribly crippled spider that reared up beside him. It was full of malice. It had something in his mouth, and the taste of it was unspeakable. I mean, listen to that. Great presences, wicked mouths full of teeth, huge burning eyes, horribly crippled spider creature. It's like he peeked behind the veil and he saw like an eldritch being or something. What I also love about the portrayal of magic in this book is seeing various characters' reaction to it. And it's quite clear that people, particularly people within power, whether they be in parliament, whether they're heading, the armies during the Napoleonic War, they view magic more as a means of almost like a form of technology. Their main concern is, okay, what can magic do to benefit the country? How can we benefit, economically, politically from magic? And the minute that magic starts to deviate away from this practical use, they start getting nervous, like, oh, I don't like that. This magic, it feels un-English. And that's another thing about the discussion with regards to magic in this book, this idea of English magic. Because once you start saying English magic, you're making it sound like England owns it. England was definitely, its history was influenced by magic, but the idea that, there's this type of ownership over the magic is kind of ridiculous because, as I mentioned, it's something ancient and something immense and it's something primal. And it definitely makes characters uneasy when they think about it. You have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell embodying these two extremes with regards to, viewership towards magic. You have those like Strange who wants to, dive head in first, bravely, arrogantly into the magic, discover all the secrets that he can get. And then you have Norrell, who is foolishly trying to box magic in, trying to contain it as much as possible. But that's not how it works. And it's going to be very interesting to see, as a reader, who do you align more with? Do you align more with Strange? Do you align more with Norrell? It was very interesting for me, and this is another reason why I love this book so much, is that my feelings towards characters they shifted. I can see where both sides are coming from, and I can see the shortcomings of both as well. And it's the same with the two men. Granted, I will admit that Norrell annoyed me much more than Strange, but there were moments where I kind of I sympathized with Norrell. Like I understood, like I understand where you're coming from. And there were moments where I was just getting frustrated with Strange, like, just calm down, reel it in a bit more. So yes, Clarke does a fantastic job with her characters and how they interact with the magic in her world. The last major element I want to discuss, and one that I really enjoyed, is the portrayal of the Fae. They're immensely powerful. Magic is second nature to them. They're ancient beings, and they basically have the sensibilities of children, which is terrifying. The sensibilities of a child and then immense power. The character that mainly represents the Fae here in this book is the gentleman with the thistledown hair. And I love the fact that we're not given a name. And it just makes it not only mysterious, but also a bit malicious. I know, it just makes it all the more intriguing. And this fairy is, he's a creature of his whims and fancies. He might grow attached to a human, say he cares for them, loves them, but it's all selfish. Everything he does, even if he claims it is for the benefit of another person, it's ultimately to serve him, his ego, and his wants. He's so unnervingly callous and emotionally erratic that you just have to tiptoe around him. But then at the same time, this emotional erraticism, I feel, would make him a good subject of being manipulated if you had the right person to do so. Imagine if Steerpike from Gormenghast got a hold of this fairy. That'd be terrifying. Like, that Machiavellian mind with this erratic being with immense power, that's just terrifying. Another thing that Clarke does with her portrayal of the Fae is that she portrays their society as one that they have adopted a lot of the Christian customs, Christians being like humans. They've adopted the use of their titles, their clothing, these sort of details. But she also reveals, to the reader that they do have, in fact, a primal past. These fairies kind of remind me of Arthur Macken's The White People. This is a race of people that predate mankind. This is a race of very powerful, ancient people. They've been here for so long. Their little fairy castles that they have, they're actually, holes within like hill mounds. Like, that's how ancient they are. So they have this very primal past, and yet they kind of adopted the manners of humans because it entertains them. Ultimately, I think Clarke has crafted Fae that are interesting. They are unnerving, but they also retain a bit of mystery. In Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, when the roads to Fairy, which is the country that the Fae come from, are opened and you can journey into it, it leads to places that are dark and got under my skin, particularly that road that led to the woods of the castle of the plucked iron heart, where you have that gray stone tower with the shadow of the woman at the window, and you never see her, you don't know who she is, and there's that forest with snakes that have, that are eating corpses. I'm like, if that is one of the places the roads to Fairy lead, I don't want to journey on those roads. And then you also have, the King's Road. When you enter the mirror and you enter the King's Road, and it's just nothing but darkness, vast darkness, dark corners, huge canals, immense bridges, this large moor that Jonathan Strange notices one tiny figure just walking in the distance. Who it is, we don't know. Once again, it is that mystery that Clarke hints at. We only get a glimpse of it, we only got a taste of it, and it's unnerving, but it's also intriguing at the same time. So I think I've exhausted my spoilery thoughts for this book, for both of these books. I hope you enjoyed. I did, portion this video out in 3 parts just to make the discussion more coherent, and I hope that this was at least a bit coherent. So thank you for watching, and if you've read either of these books, please leave a comment down below. I would love a discussion with you. And yeah, until next time, bye.